Let's take a look at YouTube. YouTube has a new policy supporting the 2020 US election. Interesting title. They're going to support the election. All right. I'm not going to read the whole policy. I'm just going to read the parts that matter here. So they say, hey, we have been removing stuff that's spam, blah, blah, blah. Since September, we've terminated over 8,000 channels and thousands of harmful and misleading election-related videos for violating they're bragging, our existing policies. Over 70% of those removed videos were taken down before they had 100 views. Wow. We also work to make sure that the line between what is removed and what is allowed is drawn in the right place. Our policies prohibit...
Look at that, just real quick. They're bragging.
Yeah.
They're bragging about censorship. About removing things. And anyway, go ahead.
Right. So we also work to make sure that the line between what is removed and what is allowed to be drawn is in the right place. It's drawn in the right place. Our policies prohibit misleading viewers about where and how to vote. Okay. We also disallow content alleging widespread fraud or errors change the outcome of a historical U.S. presidential election. However, in some cases, this has meant allowing controversial views on the outcome or process of counting votes of a current election as election officials have worked to finalize counts. So this is them apologizing to the left saying, sorry, we had to let people talk about this fraud stuff because there's still some things in the courts going on. So technically we can't quite, we want to censor, but we can't quite censor yet. I'm sorry. But don't worry, leftists. Yesterday, they say, by the way, this was published. When was this published? A couple days ago, December 9th, 2 days ago. Yesterday was the safe harbor deadline for the U.S. presidential election, and enough states have certified their election results to determine a president-elect. Given that, now we can do it. Given that, we will start removing any piece of content uploaded today or anytime after that misleads people by alleging that widespread fraud or errors change the outcome of the 2020 U.S. presidential election. That's the main point. We don't really need to.
Yeah. Okay. So this is not a super chat. I just want to read this, though, from the chat. Reno Vadio says, it really is like 1984, where they're celebrating the amount of words they've removed from the dictionary. Yeah, it is. They're just basically like, hey, we removed 77% of content about the election, guys. Sorry, we couldn't have removed more. We're working on it. Like, now we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they actually have said, and it's weird because how they've tried to designate what you can and can't say. And you can talk about fraud, but you can't say that fraud is what it caused Trump to lose. Like you can talk about Trump losing, but you can't. There's these weird connections you're not allowed to make, or even give an opinion, or even to talk about the lawsuits that might show that, or they're going to ban your channel. They're going to ban your channel. And they said starting in, January? Yeah, but they're going to do something else starting in January.
Oh, really? I didn't even see that one.
Yeah. So this isn't new for anyone who's been paying attention, who's not in the echo chamber from legacy media. This isn't new. They've been censoring. We had a whole series we were doing on the censorship, on the purges that were happening at YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, and they all work in collusion with one another. And but I think they've crossed a line. I think they've now it's ramped up to such a degree. Things are really different now than they were a few months ago, even.
Well, they've definitely gotten bolder.
They're very bold about it, and I shared an article about this, just asking, where are you liberals? Where are you? And fortunately, there are more liberals every day who are waking up, or who are, let me put it this way, who were already awake and who've been waking up for a while, but are now getting over their fear of leftists and liberals who are starting to speak. And there are more people waking up every day, but not en masse, not a large number of people. And it is disappointing as a liberal to see stuff like this, and to see that the left has become just so full of illiberal people who celebrate this kind of censorship.
Yes.
So,
although I would argue the left has been full of illiberal people for since before you and I were born. But yeah, so the thing, we don't actually talk about election fraud much on, like, we talked like a little bit, but we don't really focus on it. I know a lot of people are super focused on it. So I don't, part of me wants to talk about it just because they're saying we can't, but like, I don't, this is not something we would be talking about anyway. So we're not going to really talk about it, but it's the policy that bothers me. And a couple things come to mind here. One is with respect to election fraud, something Scott Adams said a few days ago. I mean, as always, he's so good at really getting to the heart of matters and really succinctly explaining what the core issue is. And his point was, if the process involved people bullying you from seeing what was happening, and he had a bunch of videos, right? He cited a bunch of examples of like transparency not allowed, like you can't watch. If the process, and in key states, if the process involved a lack of transparency, well, you don't need to talk about fraud. It doesn't, like, if you're talking about fraud, you're talking about the wrong thing. Because if you don't have transparency, you can never prove nor disprove fraud. You don't know anything. You didn't have transparency. If they don't let you observe the way you're supposed to, if they bully you out, if they say you can't do this or that, if they nix every attempt to see what's going on, well, you're talking about fraud's the wrong thing. The problem is the transparency. And I think he had a good point, and he made it even better than I'm more succinctly and better than what I'm saying now. So yeah, Scott Adams was spot on. If you haven't seen what he had to say about that,